tuning in to the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to another Spotlight On. I am your host, Courtney Henderson, and I am joined today by the wonderful Gabriel Luna.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Courtney.
Yeah, so I just want to kind of start with the homeland, Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
So
Mothership.
It's a musical town. I know they have quite a up-and-coming acting kind of scene going on.
Absolutely.
And so, did you kind of find the bug in Austin?
Yeah. Well, I was born there, and I guess the acting bug found me and snuck up on me and bit me on the foot, or actually on the left shoulder, because I was a football player. Played strong safety for my high school and was a captain of the team, and was my kind of monopolized my time. But when I dislocated my shoulder, my left shoulder shattered, and I needed to find another way to go to school for free. I was a great student, so I was content to go to UT and be a business major, but a bunch of weird stuff happened. You know, to get a fine arts credit, I was in a tech theater class building sets for the actors, and it was an easy way to get my arts credit without having to dance or sing or draw or anything. Just to swing a hammer and be good. But during the course of that, the teacher, he had us read a play so that we would all know what everyone's job is, including the directors and the actors and stagehands, everyone. And after we read this play, he asked me, he thought that I perhaps would like to do it or try it. And I told him no at the time. I used going to football practice after school to still be a help to my coaches as an excuse. But truthfully, I think I was just afraid. And so I told him no. And then the same night, it's just this convergence of energies seemed to happen, which has happened a few times over the course of my life. But in this instance, it was my grandmother who called me my father passed away before I was born, and she told me that she had a bunch of gifts that she wanted to give me, that things that belonged to him. And I went to receive them, went through this box and found all these great things, trophies and yearbooks and all this stuff. But on the bottom was this videotape. It was a VHS tape. And I played the tape, and on the tape was my father in living, breathing, walking, for the first time I had ever seen him animate that way, in a play that he wrote, starred, and directed for our church.
Wow.
Which was prior to my being born. You know, this is probably maybe, I think, probably right as I was conceived. It was probably like 8 or 9 months before I was born. It was an Easter play. And I watched it, and I saw this, and I considered the chances of that happening, or the odds of that happening, and it didn't seem that, it just seemed that I had to return to school, and I had to at least try, because things like that don't happen often, and if you're still enough and listening enough to actually listen, then maybe something will come of it. And I went and auditioned, and he gave me the part, and it was the young lady who played my wife. Her mother was the artistic director at St. Edward's University in Austin, Texas, which is a really fine institution. And she promised my mom that there and then that if I went to school, they'd give me a full scholarship. So I had to learn how to be an actor in the theater. So I figured they would teach me in college, as I guess that's what they do. And
well, it seems like they did.
And they did, and they taught some great things.
You went to
I went to St. Edward's University, and I studied there. And in my sophomore year, I appeared in my first film, which was a small independent called Fall to Grace in Austin, Texas. And then, of course, I fell in love with the movies, as people tend to do once you set foot on a set. And I just continued to continue to pursue that also working many different jobs in Austin,
Of course.
Texas.
Well, Fall of Grace, so that went to South by Southwest.
It did, yes.
And so, which is in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
And so how was that going to that and kind of having this little bit extra excitement, kind of like the first taste of a little bit, I would say, kind of a Hollywood or, kind of celebrity type feeling?
It was in competition in 2005. And it, just being in the Paramount Theater is the main theater in Austin, Texas. It's our pride and joy. It's a beautiful building. A lot of history in that building. It was built in 1919. And that's where we were screening. That's where we were having our screening. And I remember sitting in the middle of the house with my grandfather next to me, who recently passed away. And he's a beautiful man, and he taught me a lot. And I remember him turning to me and he's like, I used to have to sit up there, pointing to the mezzanine, which is where, I guess, back in early days during segregation things, some people had to sit other places. And he's like, yeah, I used to have to sit up there. I remember I haven't been here in 50 years, he said. And there he was with me sitting in the middle of the house and at the Paramount Theater about to watch a picture that I was starring in. So, it was a great experience to go to South by that first time. I had been many times for the music, and being a native of the town, you get plugged in and you know where all the things are, and you don't pay for drinks, and you just sneak into parties, and it was great as a youth. But then as I started work and was involved with it, bringing projects to the festival, it became another beast, really interesting place.
So in college, you obviously had to do the acting thing because that's how you had the scholarship.
Right.
But you talked about, maybe going to, you just were looking for a way to go to college for free, perhaps. Right. So, maybe to go into business or something else.
Right.
But at what point did you kind of decide, okay, this acting, theater, this is my business. This is what I want to actually do for the rest of my life.
Yeah, initially, before all that happened with my shoulder, I was actually going to go to play football. I had a few scholarships to smaller D1 schools to play football. And so I thought that when I got to college, I would flesh things out or explore and try to figure out exactly what it would be I would try to pursue. But when this thing fell on me and it became something where each time I was involved with something, it would always open up another door, or it would always light another step in the path, and I would just go there. My mother was very young. She had me. She was a teenager. She was 15. My father was, in fact, she was a widow before, she was even old enough to work. So it was interesting growing up with such a young mother, and also with someone who was kind of learning as you were, as she went, as much as I was. With only 15 years between us, as I grew into an adult. There had only been so much life that she had lived prior to where I was at that point in my life. So I just I could do anything, and she wasn't going to tell me no, because she always trusted me. I was always a good student. I always got good grades, and I always made solid, reasonable, sensible choices. For the maybe not always.
Always.
maybe.
But the majority of the time, yeah. Enough that you had her trust.
Where I had her trust. And so when this happened, and I just found, the opportunities that were given to me or that were presented to me were in the arts. I've always been an artistic person, just not very outspoken, mostly just kind of drawing and writing and things. But I don't know when it was. It just kept happening. Things just led to another thing, and I didn't want to stop doing it. Then eventually, later on, I developed with some comrades of mine. We opened a theater company in Austin called Paper Chairs, and we continued to work on shows and little known works and original pieces and things. Just to stay in it. I'd get paid. I would get paid nothing. It would all go back into the company. And then, throughout that, I would, smaller independents and a couple of TV spots here and there, and things were there. There were opportunities in Austin, but at some point, you realized that it was a lot of day player roles that were available. They cast out here in L.A. and New York, and then they go to Austin, they shoot it, and they fill in the rest of the roles with locals. So after a while, I just felt that I had to go elsewhere so they could send me back home to Austin.
I want to be a day player in Austin, but I got to go to L.A. to do it.
Right. Well, I want to be the guy in the movie, but I'd certainly have to go to LA to do that.
Right.
And then they'll send me back, which almost happened with this show that I'm doing now. But yeah, so I'm not sure exactly when it happened, but I never hit a wall so steep that I stopped, or I never hit a trough so deep that I just couldn't get out of it. There's always something, or I always least trusted that there's always something coming.
Yeah.
And which it always seemed to happen at the right time to just keep me interested and keep me working.
So you said that you started this theater company. So
Right.
in college you had the opportunity to do primarily theater in school, but then you
Right.
did the film kind of on your own
Right, exactly.
outside of it. And so do you ever go back? Is it still there?
The stage?
The theater company.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's still there. We, primarily, I work in a fundraising capacity out here. And two of the founding members are here now, and one is in New York who just graduated from Yale. So it's been kind of fragmented a little bit, but we're still operating, and we still put on shows each year. But I haven't participated on stage in any of them since I left, which was 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago now, 3.5 years ago. But yes, no, I get the itch all the time. I mean, I go, my girl, she's part of a theater group here, and I watch her work and see all her friends on stage, and it drives me mad sometimes. It's just I wish I could find a group or the time to do that here in LA.
So you primarily are doing film and TV right now, but
Right,
you would love to get back on stage
Absolutely,
at some point.
absolutely. There's nothing like it. I mean, there's nothing like, it's getting on the roller coaster and not being able to get off. No one's going to call cut and let you adjust or fix the lap bar. You go to the end of the ride. And
Yeah.
and I've done shows where it's 3-hour shows, 2.5-hour shows where you never leave the stage. And it's just it's full immersion.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So when you moved to LA, you decided to make that big jump. Kind of, what did you do to kind of get set up here?
Yeah. So I was in another film that was at South by called Dance with the One, which was directed by Mike Dolan, and it was a great picture that was made in conjunction with the University of Texas, actually, with all the critical roles being filled by professionals, but then a lot of the smaller crew roles filled by students at one of the greatest film schools in the country, University of Texas. And that was a great experience with that. And I earned my honorary Longhorn card by participating in that film. And my current manager, Melissa Bro, over at Washington Square Arts, her assistant was there. He had directed a short called Gaby, which he eventually turned into a feature. Mm-hmm. But at the time, he was just there showing his short, and he saw my picture, and he found me. And then he found Mike, the director, and then they both invited me to the Iron Cactus in Austin. I sat down, and he said, "If you ever come to Los Angeles, you should call us." So I think it was like 1.5 years, 2 years later that I actually did end up in Los Angeles. And I called them, and I sat down with Mel at Jones Cafe here in Santa Monica, and Melly and I had a long talk, and we just thought that we could work together, And she's like a sister to me now. She's really, really, my girl calls her my professional wife.
Yes, I've heard that term before.
And she started plugging me in here and there, and we got some bites from agents and things, just from the buzz from the film at the festival. But I couldn't get anyone to unanimously, I would sell all the agents except for one.
Oh, I see.
And usually it has to be unanimous. And so I went that first season without representation except for Mel, and she sent me out a few things and got good responses. So I just kind of bided my time, continued, and booked some other things, some commercial things and this and that to keep me afloat. And the following pilot season came around. I went out 4 times, screen tested for 3 of those, and went. I think one of them. I don't know what happened. Anyway, there was a lot of interest at that point. Mm-hmm. And then I went and took another round of meetings with agents, and it all of a sudden was, it was a complete reversal of roles.
Unanimous.
They were selling me, and
Like,
they were trying to sell me, and I was just there to either say yes or no, which was really a wonderful thing. But that all was born of just Mel, busting the pavement, trying to get me in, and she got me in, and then people responded, and I guess that was it. And then finally got signed up and just kept going out and did some TV, did a couple features last year, and then the show came around.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you did 3 screen tests out of 4 auditions,
Yeah.
your first pilot season, it was only a matter of time before Matador came along.
That's what she told me at the time, and I with me, especially in this past year of my life, not knowing any better is probably the best, like the best shield and defense and weapon maybe also that you can have sometimes. Just kind of going on your gut and on your instinct and just making choices and standing by them. And they seem to have worked. So I just continued to go from there.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Matador a little bit. I love that it's on this new network.
Right.
And so, in deciding to go out for it and then getting offered the part, kind of how did that process go?
That was a long process for me personally, because I knew about the project about 10 or 11 months prior to them actually casting me in the role. My friend was getting the breakdowns illegally and called me one day.
As a lot of actors do.
Right. And then it was like, there's this part for you, man. It's perfect. It's like a Latin James Bond, and you could do this. I mean, he's an athlete. He's also an athlete. He plays soccer and all this. And I was like, oh man, that sounds fantastic. My current agent is not the agent that I signed with in the previous story.
Mm-hmm.
The agent that I had signed with in the previous story, I had contacted her then when I'd heard about it and said, we should look at this. And she's like, okay, I'll keep an eye. And she never really did, I don't think.
Yeah.
So months go by and nothing's really happening, and they haven't really cast anybody. And occasionally I'll check in and think about, see what's going on with that, with Matador and what was happening with the program. No one had been cast. Continued. Flash forward to a year ago today, and still no one. I had just returned back from Austin, Texas, where I went to shoot a film called Intramural, which was it's a goofy football comedy with the Saturday Night Live cast and a bunch of great people and some friends. And I was like, all right, great, just came off this movie, gonna find something else. And then for the whole autumn season, there was nothing really came about. And I just started to get antsy and a little bit, anxious. And then I just didn't. So I made a shuffle in my with my representation and drop someone, and then I was like, I'll come back right before we go on break for Christmas, and I'll have enough time to find someone, and everything will be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But then there was tragedy in my family. My grandfather passed away, as I mentioned before, and all of a sudden I found myself back in Austin for a month to handle all his affairs, because he had 2 sons, both deceased many years. So it was just him and me.
So you're the man of the family.
So I am now I'm 31 years old, and I am the oldest male in my immediate family.
Wow.
Which is at first thought it seems daunting, but then it becomes an opportunity to be a good example. And so that happened. I had to go away for a month.
Yeah.
I come back to LA. Really, I was ready. I really was. I was ready to move forward wherever that was. Forward, even if it meant down, I needed to go forward. And my friends were my brothers. My brother, and I call them my brothers because I have so many brothers back in Austin. But they were all very supportive, and they really helped me through that whole period of time. So I come back to LA when I should be completely void of any energy, but I came back replenished and rejuvenated in some ways, just being with my family and having them support me in that tough time. But I was without representation. I was back to square one. I had my manager, didn't have an agent.
Yeah, pilot season starting.
Pilot season was starting, and I was like, all right, here we go. We got to figure something out. And in that 2 weeks, or in that first week of January, where I was still in Austin, my manager met with through a different client, met these really great people, Peter Gallagher, Krista Stewart, who are my agents now, kind of gave away the lead of the story, but they were great. And she had just met them. She's like, there's these people we should meet. And I took meetings with a lot of people. But then I sat down with Peter and Carissa, and like about 2 minutes into the thing, she's like, oh my God, there's this thing that you would be perfect for. And it's called Matador, and it's this guy, he's a spy, and he's a soccer star. I was like,
Did you just
wow.
light up?
No, I was like, I know about that, and I agree with you. And she's like, yeah, we could totally get you in that. We should get you there. We do this. And so and then she's also thinking about Austin, which was great. She knew what was happening in Austin, and there's been a great resurgence around the turn of the millennium. It was beautiful, flowering, flourishing community, and then it's fought through the struggles of losing incentive programs and all this stuff for the last decade. But now that Rick Perry's on his way out, and people are forward thinking, those incentives have returned, and there's been another great resurgence. So I just like anyone who's plugged into that, of course, be plugged into Los Angeles, but still honors and respects the work of the artistry of the people in Austin, Texas, which there's a lot. I'm all about that. So I was like, all right, great. You know, it took me a moment. So of course I waited to the end of the meeting. I told Mel, it's like, these are the people. She's like, great. And then I went out on two things for them. A show called Jane the Virgin, which I was going to meet directors with, and Matador. Matador was the second thing I went on. And those two things, for the next 2 weeks, I was pursuing, and then I was going back in, and then actually I think it was 3.5 weeks. And then, but Matador was always a thing, and I was just like, I wanted it, I needed it, I wanted it. It was like breathing when I was in the room.
It was yours. It sounds like
it was just everything about the guy. Even the there's this weird parallels in our family histories and things that would just make it effortless, and it was. First audition, second audition. Went in, met Dan Dworkin and Jay Beatty and Heather Caden, all these wonderful people who were producing the show, and Mary Vernew and Lindsey Graham, who were the casting directors, who were amazing. And I had wanted to meet Mary for actually for 3 years. When I first moved here, I was like, Elizabeth Abion, a friend of mine, was going to hook me up with Mary to sit down. We were supposed to have a sit down like 3 years ago, and it never happened. And then finally here I was, in the biggest audition of my life with Mary, which was nice. And those first two went really well. They called me a week later. They were like, okay, Robert's flying in to meet you. So Robert Rodriguez is now flying in to meet me. And which is really, really funny, because I grew up in Austin. He's based in Austin. He went to UT. He's one of the godfathers of the film community in Austin. And now I told him when I finally saw him, I was like, it was just a really roundabout way of getting this meeting with you. You know, 9 years since the first time I've actually shook your hand, and 1,500 miles. Yeah. And now, here we are, you know, and it was really neat. And so I sat with Robert, and we talked, and I was a bit nervous, I think.
You think?
Yeah, and he and I had a couple of iced teas at the Four Seasons, and we talked for a while, and we talked about the character a little bit, but mostly we just talked about home and the movies, and the music that he plays, and he plays in a band with some friends of mine, and we realized we had all these connections, you know. Yeah. You know, his little brother was the DP of a film that I did, Dance with One. His ex-wife is one of the patrons of my theater company. You know, all these connections, and we had. It was only time before the net wound tight enough that we would come together, I think.
Yeah, it sounds like.
And we realized we were a family before we even knew it. And so after we got all that out of the way, and I told him about my family, and I told him about my grandpa, who had just passed. And in fact, it was my grandfather's birthday that night, February 19th, when I met Robert. And I told him that much, and then I also told him my grandfather, because he lived alone. As I mentioned, he had two sons. And, he always would go through the papers, and he would cut out all the stuff about Robert and what he was doing in Austin, because there's always stories written about Robert and what he was, you know, Dusted on series or the Machete movies or whatever he was doing, Sin City. And this goes back years, you know. And my grandpa, every time I would visit him, he'd always have clippings of things in the life and art section from the paper, and he'd have clippings from what Robert was doing. He's like, okay, this is the guy you need to work with. And at the time, I mean, I was like, yeah, you're right. I don't know how this is going to happen.
You're like, of course I need to work with this guy.
But you're absolutely right. That's the guy. And you know, you fast forward all these years, and there I am on my grandfather's birthday telling the man the story, the man himself. And it was a great experience. And I left, and then the meeting was over. All of a sudden, he's like, "Oh, I got another meeting. See you later, man." I was like, "All right, cool. I'll see you later." And then I walked back out to the valet at the Four Seasons. They pulled up my Land Rover. Had all kinds of problems, and it was just like rattling up to the front of the Four Seasons hotel. It was like, crank, 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 crank. And I left feeling good about the meeting, not knowing what's going to happen. And then they called me like 4 days later, said they're going to test you. And so I went in. It was just me and another guy, and went to the test. And once again, it felt really easy. They were all in the room. Robert was there on the Skype on the computer, laptop on the thing, and I felt good. I felt like I killed it. And then I just turned and I looked everyone in the eye, called them by their first name, told them thank you, and then they were like, "Yeah, thank you. Yeah, but, what do you think, Robert?" They all turned to the computer, and there's a long delay because he's in Austin, so everyone's holding their breath. And then finally he removes his earpiece and through the monitors from the computers, like, "I think we can go into production." And at the time, I was just, I think I just like clapped my hands and like, you know, let out a bit of not a big yell or anything, but I just kind of clapped my hands like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh, great, great, great. All right, thanks, Gabe." And I left. And then a moment of doubt creeps in. You're like, well, maybe he didn't mean me. Maybe maybe the other guy was good and he has made his decision. But they called me 8 hours later. They had 15 days to decide. My agents and my manager said that that was completely unheard of, like that never happens. And so apparently they knew that they had found their dude, and I was happy to be the dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from then, how long before you went into production?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah. So I was the last piece.
Wow.
Well, they had been holding out offers to a few people just until they found who was going to play Tony Bravo, and they had been looking for 10 months now. I mean, since I first saw the breakdown, they had been looking, and luckily they were still looking. And that's part of the great thing about this part, you know, is just, you know, it's not really a part that's on television. It has ever been on television, which is a Latin American, keyword being American, young man who's the lead, who's eloquent, who, you know, is charming, is a leading man. You know, it's not. I try to count the American leading man, Latin American leading man on my one hand. I couldn't do it, and it was a sad thing, but it was also encouraging because I was like, all right, maybe I can kind of nudge my way in there.
Well, it sounds like there's definitely a huge opportunity for you. You kind of said, you know, you're the man of the family now, and while on one hand that can be daunting or a little bit sad, there's this opportunity to kind of pave the way for the future. And I would say the same thing goes for you with being Latin American and being able to kind of pave the way for other Latin American men to come in and play these leading roles and get to do things that perhaps they've never had an opportunity to do before. You know, writers, directors, other people in other aspects of filmmaking can step in and kind of help generate and create more roles like this.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. And all I really want to do is do my best possible work so that when they turn to someone else and they want to offer him a job, they already have an example of how it worked and how it was bankable and how it made sense. And that's really a big part of what I'm doing, or what I'm trying to do. And the network itself is offering these opportunities. You know, it's Robert and Bob Orsi, Bob was born in Mexico City, and he's made it all the way to Hollywood. Now he's the director of Star Trek 3, and he wrote the Star Trek movies and Transformers and Spider-Mans and all that. And he created our show. And it's just like, you know, these men are the ones that kind of just smashed open the door. And then I said this before in interviews, but it's what I believe. It's up to us to just do great work and fill that doorway so the door can never close, and then we can find another door somewhere. And that's kind of what the network is, and that's what Robert's doing, and it's a privilege to be part of the birth of it.
Yeah, because this is one of the first shows to go on the network.
Right. Yeah. Dusk was the original, the first show. But of course, that was adapted from Robert and Quentin's previous product, And Matador was the first truly, completely original scripted series based on a character that Bob thought of. And so yeah, it's Us and Dusk, and then with new shows that are being added every day. So it's cool. It's cool to be on the maiden voyage of the whole thing.
Yes. Well, and like you said, to kind of show people that this is bankable, this is marketable.
Right.
People do want to watch this.
It's $1 trillion market. I mean,
it's
a third of the population. It's just a lot. And then, but the truth of it, our programming, of course, we want to instill a sense of pride with that audience, that the people who are creating this product for them are Latinos, are both in front, behind, side, everywhere around the camera, operating. There these men, but that's. These men and women are in those positions, but beyond that, the product itself, the content, is for everyone. And if you look at our crew and if you look at our cast, I mean, it's just everyone on the payroll. I think it's like 60% diverse. It's just really, really extraordinary thing. And we're really, really pleased with the way everyone kind of gelled and how effective the working environment turned out to be. But
so where do you film the show?
Not too far from here, actually.
Really?
Actually, our practice field, which is aided with a lot of special effects on the show, is actually over here at Balboa Park.
Oh, that's really close.
Yeah. And but we shoot in Van Nuys. We have 4 stages in Van Nuys. We shot some at Warner Brothers Studios, and we shot the rest on location at StubHub Center, down where the LA Galaxy play.
Nice.
That's our home field, the LA Riots home field.
It's a rough life being you.
Yeah. No.
Well, but really, I mean, you had kind of said that you were really interested in the role before you even got into the room to audition for it, because of all the parallels with you personally, and
Right.
he is an athlete and all of these other things, and so what is it like to be on set where you're kind of playing this action star, you're playing this undercover person, you're playing this family man, you're playing the athlete, you've got kind of so many hats to wear in this one character.
Right.
And, so what's kind of the span of things that you deal with on set?
I get there at 6 usually, and then I'm there till about 8, and I never leave the set. I'm even if it's not, that's the kind of person I am. I'm a set rat. And it was great to find out that Fred Molina, who plays my nemesis, is also a set rat. And he's been in the business 40 years. So apparently, it's an okay thing to be. And of course, I'm heavily involved in a lot of the story. But beyond that, I just like to be there. I like to be with my guys. I walk around playing the guitar. Robert does the same. In fact, Robert gave me his guitar as a gift from the pilot episode.
Wow.
And I walk around playing guitar with people and serenading Lisa, our scriptie, and just kind of keeping everything loose. And but when it comes time, I'm always prepared. I'm ready to go. And it's the theater training. I think just ready, just always ready, and then ready to throw it away when you have the opportunity. But a day on the set is just a joy. I mean, I look at the one-liner the night before, and then you're just like, oh man, I get to go play a professional soccer game with quote unquote 20,000 people in the audience, which there will be on the screen, but there's 400 still. There's 400 people there that they turn into 20,000. They're watching you play soccer, and then oh wow, what else are we doing today? We're going to the jungle. Okay, let's go to the jungle. Fight a bunch of guerrilla warriors.
I know you said you played football in high school. Did you grow up playing soccer at all?
No, not as a child. Just college was my first introduction to the game, playing with some friends in college, and beyond that, I just became a huge fan of I just started being the World Cup. I think in 2002 really kind of hooked me. Brazil won in 2002, and that was a great tournament. And I just remember watching, and I got so into it. I watched the next 4 years later. I couldn't wait till South Africa, and 4 years later I couldn't wait till Germany, and then then Rio this year was happening during shooting our show, so there was just an incredible fever and buzz for the sport itself. And then our show comes out, and nice timing, 2 days after the final.
Probably not coincidental.
It would seem that way, but you know, it was no like genius master plan. I think it was just the timing of when it happened. It happened, that was great. It was great for us, and it was great for the sport, and it was great for morale on set. We had our World Cup pool, and we had.
How'd you do?
I asked the ladies up in the front office to get us a big TV and a couch, and they did. And so, of course, we couldn't scream because we were shooting on the stage, and so we put our hands up and we'd shake them like this. You can't see this is radio, I think, but this is our cheer. You know, so if something great happened, you can see all the guys going like this. But we have a lot of fun. You know, care about each other and come to work, and it's a fun show to work on because there's always action or, you know, romance or something like that happening. So no one seems to be bored when we're working.
Well, what can you tell us about the upcoming finale?
Oh man. So all right. So you know, I haven't done a round. I've been on vacation for a while, so I haven't done a round of press, and I'm so happy now because I can say so much more about the show. The finale is gonna be great. Robert came back to direct. Robert Rodriguez will be directing, did direct the finale, and he bookended our season, and the finale is great because I was really happy with it because it closes the loop. You know, it does definitely closes a season 1 loop. It doesn't leave you with too much of a cliffhanger. It definitely, the first season lives in its own bubble, which is very, very good for me, I think, and for the story. This past episode that aired, number 12, directed by Joe Gallagher, is incredible. It's like super action packed, and in fact, if there wasn't more story to tell, they could easily put a button on the season. But we have a great finale lined up for everyone. Culmination of it all, and the last time you see my character, I'm in rubble after a drone strike in Myanmar, and so you don't even know if I'm alive. But
well, so that's a bit of a cliffhanger then.
A bit
going into
from 12 to 13.
Yeah.
That's 12 to 13. That's actually episode 12. That was the one that just
Yeah.
aired on Tuesday. So hopefully, you know, the few people that watch the show have seen it. I'm sure there's more than a few, but
yeah. There are more than a few of us that watch the show.
Yeah. So I can't say too much about the finale other than it's going to be great, and you're going to enjoy it, and you're going to love it.
I'm excited. It's next Tuesday night.
Next Tuesday
at 9 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Pacific Standard Time.
On the El Rey Network.
Yes, your wonderful network.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see. This is the first show that I've been introduced to on the network, so I'm excited now to go back and see what else they have, you know, on the show. And I'll say, personally, when you were talking about Matador and Jane the Virgin, and you know, kind of those were the two moving forward opportunities. Yeah. I've seen teasers for that show, and I think you made the right choice, or you know, the right opportunity kind of fell into place, because as a soccer fan, you know, and loving action,
well,
you know,
the action,
kind of the detective, or you know, kind of the secret ops type.
It's a dream.
Shows.
It's perfect. You know, it's not too procedural. There's a lot of story. There's a lot of family in our show, and there's a lot of you know, like I said, there's a lot of romance, and it's great because they call it's supposed to be a James Bond-like character, but I always say the best thing about our show is that you know, you see what Tony has to lose. You never see what Bond has to lose. You never meet his family. You know. So that's where. So we can always dip into that part of our story, which makes people feel safe and makes them feel comfortable. They know Elizabeth Pena plays my mother, and Julio Machosa plays my dad. They know these faces. They love them, and they love this family environment. Isabella and Johnny play my siblings, and they get lulled into this safe place, but then they're like, oh no, Galan is there at her. You know, all these different things can happen. And then they start to consider the possibilities of these people being in danger, and it just raises the stakes on everything. So, yeah, the show's great, and it has a lot of elements, and I think it's really a dream job, from a dude in the acting profession to get to play ball and run around shooting guns. You
get the family, the romance, the action, and the athlete. Yeah. You get it all.
Yeah, and I hope that we continue, and I just want us I'm looking forward to season 2, starting in February, and I can't wait to see my guys again and go back to work.
So what are you going to do between now and February?
As I mentioned, I just got off a month of vacation. Next week I fly to New York to do a picture called Freeheld with Julianne Moore and Michael Shannon and Steve Carell and Ellen Page.
It's a few names in that.
It's a great, yeah. Let me pick up all these names I just dropped on the floor.
No, so what's this about? You kind of were telling me, but it's a comedy drama.
It's a comedy drama. A lot of it's very realistic, and in life there's both, and so I wouldn't classify it in either genre, but it's about Julianne plays a detective in the New Jersey police force who is a lesbian, and no one knows, and she's choosing to keep that private, but then she meets a young lady, Ellen Page, and falls in love, and you track that relationship over the course, and then of course her professional life, and then life throws her a curve, and she's comes down with terminal form of cancer, and then the movie is about her and her struggle to and her rights to her domestic partnership rights, because she wants to make sure that her pension and her retirement and everything goes to her wife, who eventually becomes her wife. So it's a very sweet story about. It's a very sweet love story. It's also very powerful, politically conscious, social consciousness.
Very timely.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course Julianne Moore, and she's amazing.
Yeah.
She's amazing. So I'm looking forward to that. That's next week, and then go to work, and then I'll come back to LA and probably spend a couple months. I don't know what we're gonna do.
Well, you have the holidays coming up.
Got the
so
holidays
you'll spend
coming
some
up.
time with family, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, probably coming back.
So on this film though, with Julianne Moore, what kind of character are you playing?
I play a detective in her precinct who sides with her, and there's the whole movie she's battling politicians, and it's just without giving anything away, I side with her during this conflict, and I guess that's pretty much all I can say. But it's Peter Sollett is directing. He did Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist and Raising Victor Vargas, which are both great pictures, and look forward to work with Peter. And I don't know, it's just a really nice thing. I was glad I got to plug this into the break, because this is exactly the kind of thing I wanted to do. Work with these with just luminaries in the field, and then get ready for my thing in February.
Yes, well, it looks like you'll keep busy. You've got a big year coming up next year, because I'm hoping, fingers crossed, this movie will come out sometime next year.
Yeah.
2015.
Right.
And then we'll get to see more of
Intramural.
Matador.
You should see Intramural soon, which I'm told we're close to a deal to get that movie out in the screens for people.
Woohoo!
And that's a really fun movie. Super in the vein of like Naked Gun and Wet Hot American Summer. It's a spoof, but not like a scary movie or anything kind of that. Not too on the nose kind of spoof. So it's fun. It's really Beck Bennett and Katie McKinnon and Jay Farrell, all Saturday Night Live members, are fantastic in it. And then a lot of young guys like Britannic Boys and the Good Neighbor Kids and all these guys from really great comedy duos are in it as well. So
nice. And that's when you shot in Austin, you said?
We shot that in Austin, Texas, over 6 weeks in 108 degrees.
Oh my gosh. Which hasn't gone away out here.
Well, no, it hasn't.
We're
no.
like 101 degrees out here today.
It should have today. I think it's 102. And Sunday was perfect.
Yes.
Sunday
We're
was the
getting
most
teased.
beautiful
We
day.
need more fall weather.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming in today and joining
absolutely.
me.
Thank you, Courtney.
Yes. Well, where can we find you online on your social media?
Oh, I guess you just type in Gabriel Luna on Twitter and Instagram. It's at the Gabriel Luna on both. And then, yeah.
Which you'd said, I'm going to have to go check out your Instagram now, because you said that you found that a year ago.
Yeah, that's my jam.
And it's, of all of the social media thing, that's your thing?
Well, the Twitter and the Facebook now act as outlets for my Instagram activity.
Okay.
So this is pretty much, I
so
just take pictures.
it all flows from Instagram.
It all flows through the Instagram, and it goes to everything else. But hopefully people don't get tired of crazy pictures. But it's, yeah, you should check it out. I mean, what have I been doing lately? You'll probably just see a lot of pictures from Puerto Rico.
I will. Well,
lately.
I'll go look.
And then some cool stuff from the show.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again so much. Check out the season finale of Matador next Tuesday night on El Rey. It's at 9 p.m. I'm your host, Courtney Henderson. You can find me on Twitter at COUHEN. Have a great day.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.